When I got trapped, everything changed. It went from being a forest fire to what's called a wildfire. That wildfire, basically to describe that to you, it moves 3 times as fast as a forest fire and just incinerates everything in its path. I tried to get out and resolve that this was it. The whole life before your eyes is very true. For me, it was like a deck of cards being fanned through. Pictures and things of family, friends, a lot of things that went through my mind right then. What happened next, I actually relive every single day. And that was, I saw me and I saw the car burnt up. I saw my colleagues having to find me that way. And the most devastating thing, and I said I live this every day, is that my family was going to have a closed casket. Obviously, I eventually got out. Thanks to a sign that had been up in the gymnasium at the police station that an officer had put up years before. And that sign was a simple piece of white Bristol board with 3 words on it in black marker. And the 3 words said, "I will survive." I have to be honest, I have no idea why that popped in my head at that point in time. But I had seen it many, many times through my career. And that's what happened. I drove through 280 feet approximately wall of flames and smoke before I came out to a clearer area. Then I drove out through another 80 feet of flames and smoke and came out through a arch, just like something out of a movie. When I came out, there were 2 of my colleagues and a firefighter trying to run a fire hose to me. They would never have gotten to where I was at. It was also my supervisor. My supervisor said, "Did you see that?" Yelling and screaming that. What he was referring to was this arch that I had driven out through. Yeah, I saw it. I just lived it. My supervisor had denied anybody entering into the scene. He had already assumed that I had succumbed to the flames and the fire, and he had also assumed that anybody going in would be a death sentence. I ended up actually going back in 3 more times because we had reports that people were still trapped. Shortly after, I was taken by police car, lights and sirens to the emergency. I remember very little about that trip to the emergency, but there's one thing that I do remember, and that was going through the intersection of Quimple Road and Connaught and seeing police cars blocking the intersection as we went through. I realized I must be in pretty bad shape if they're doing that. Even though I survived, life as I knew it ended that day. Things I used to do, I couldn't do anymore. As I said before, I had to ask for help, and that was hard because I was the one who was usually going in to provide help. I ended up with permanent nerve damage in both arms, both hands. Some days I can't close my hands. I don't have a whole lot of grip strength. Some days are better than others. I have permanent and repairable lung damage, along with severe clinical PTSD. I went from one sick day in my career to being completely off work. 13 months later, I returned part-time to work, and as luck would be, bad luck, I had a freak accident where something exploded and took complete vision of my left eye. I almost died the day of the fire, and as I said several times since after the fire, because I'll be honest with you, I thought life had come to an end. In 2013, I was barely functioning and was in bad shape physically and mentally. I was placed on a transplant list and took that very, very hard. Shortly after being placed on the transplant list, my employer unceremoniously decided to terminate me. They cut my pay, they cut my medications, my counseling, anything and everything was cut off. That was my thanks for putting my life on the line. As I said earlier, imagine for a minute coming to the realization, the belief that you would never make a difference ever again. I gave up all hope of any sort of a normal life and pretty much gave up on living. After being cast into that ditch, I was without hope. I felt I had no reason to live anymore. I felt I would never make a difference ever again, and even prayed, why did that fire not take me that day? It took so much from me, why didn't it just finish the job? Fast forward to March 18th of 2016. As I said, I was on a steamroll right downhill. Something amazing happened that day, though. That's the day I met a little chocolate lab named Maggie May. We call that Gotcha Day. Hey, Megs. Maggie was trained specially for me. She was a test pilot project by the Mental Health Foundation of Nova Scotia. And the hope was that eventually there would be more of these dogs made available to first responders and ultimately also veterans. What does Maggie do? Well, she's trained to open doors with the nerve damage in my hands, also pick up things if I drop things, always to watch my back, also many, many more things. But one very, very special thing, and that is every night from the fire right on through, several times a night, I would wake up soaked. I would wake up, startle awake, wake up soaked, flashback nightmares. After startling awake and having that feeling for almost 7 years, Maggie is trained to smell and sense that, and she wakes me up so that I never experience that again. I can't put that into words, folks. I cannot put that into words, just how much of a game changer that is for me and for my life. The very first night that Maggie arrived, 3:30 in the morning, she woke me up, and I will tell you right now, I bawled as I squeezed that little chocolate lap. She thinks it's a game. It's a very, very important game to me. More simply put, Maggie gave me life again. Shortly after Maggie arrived, I was honored by the Attorney General with a commendation for bravery. My story went public, and I was inundated with messages in excess of 5,000 in a month and a half from all over the world, people saying thank you, and also, more importantly, first responders and veterans messaging saying, I thought I was alone. Now I know I'm not. Soon after, I found myself speaking publicly in the media and at Province House about service dogs, PTSD, first responders, veteran advocacy, all the above. I lobbied for the new service dog laws in Nova Scotia. I also lobbied the political parties so that we now have presumptive legislation in Nova Scotia for first responders so they don't have to prove that they were injured in the line of duty. In the fall of 2016, something else happened. A veterinarian, a trauma nurse, a paramedic, and myself sat down and talked about what Maggie had done for me. And then we asked, what could we do to make this happen for more first responders and veterans? That kitchen table chat, in true maritime style, ended up seeing the launch of a service dog school right here. The service dog school is named CIAD, C-I-A-D. It's Gaelic for first, and it stands for Canadian Intervention and Assistance Dogs. There are now over 50 people in that team, all volunteers, training quality service dogs to put in the hands of first responders and veterans here in the Atlantic region. Our motto, wait for it, making a difference, 4 paws at a time. And we were recently recognized as one of the top 5 in Canada for service dogs for veterans and first responders. I'll be honest, I never ever believed that anything like that would ever happen when I was in those dark, dark days. Never. I still have days I struggle physically with the nerve pain, mentally as well, but I'm sure happy to be alive. I'm happy to be making a difference, to be living life more again. I still have a road ahead of me, but I see brighter days. I've done a bit of traveling in the last year, including Disney World, something I never thought I'd ever do again with those crowds. Maggie went on every ride except for the roller coasters. I'm not a big keen fan of the roller coasters either, but she went on all the rides. Shortly, I will also be getting married. And I thank my beautiful fiance for being here this evening. I can't thank her, my family, my friends, and Maggie enough for standing beside me through everything. So in closing, I'd like to ask each of you for a favor. Do it for yourself. Do it for those around you. Do it for those you love, or maybe for someone you don't even know. Life is short. There are no guarantees. Tomorrow may never come. So today and every day, I challenge each of you to please make a difference, leave a legacy, because that's what living life is all about.